Today I am high up in the far eastern fells above the Haweswater Reservoir. And what I'm doing here and who I'm with, we'll come to that in a minute. But for now, just look at that view. Behind me is Small Water. It's a mountain tarn high up in the far eastern fells. And beyond that, the Haweswater Reservoir. And I'm currently following the Mardale Pass up to the summit of Mardale Ill Bell. And from there, I'm going to head on to the summit of High Street, which is the highest fell in the Far Eastern Lake District. Why I'm doing that? Well, we'll come to that in a minute. But first off, I have to introduce you to my companion for today. That down there is my good friend Julian Baird. He's up here for the weekend and he's filming a video about the second edition of photographing the Lake District. And we've picked a walk out of the book and we're going to spend the day together up here in the fells doing some photography and generally just sort of hanging out. But what I want to be doing today is I want to try to capture photographs that record the day, that kind of document our day out in the fells. This isn't my standard approach to landscape photography. Today I'm going to be taking a little bit more of a documentary approach. This is the top of the Mardale Pass, and here we come to a bit of a crossroads. If I turn left, I head up to the summit of Harter Fell. If I carry straight on, I'm going to drop down into the Kentmere Valley and the Kentmere Reservoir. But I'm going to turn right and head up to Mardale Ill Bell. How often have you watched videos like this with landscape photographers and they're just moaning about the conditions? And I am no exception to that. I'm never happy, but today there'll be none of that because conditions are almost perfect. We've got plenty of cloud cover. It's bright enough that there's a bit of contrast in the landscape, but more importantly, it's relatively still. And I really find it very difficult hiking up in the mountains and doing photography when it's blowing a gale. So I'm just very thankful for that. So for the time being, at least, conditions are perfect and you won't hear any complaints from me. A bit on the process that I'm going through today. I'm travelling light. I've left all of my normal big landscape photography kit at home and I'm just shooting with this, my Canon M50, little compact mirrorless camera. It's got a 15 to 45 millimeter lens on it, which on the crop sensors is the equivalent of about 24 to 72 or something like that. And all I'm doing is, as I'm walking, if something catches my eye, I'm just stopping for a few moments and taking a couple of shots. And because I don't know quite what I'm going to do with the shots, how I'm going to present them, I'm shooting both portrait and landscape shots so that I've got all the options covered. This is the summit of Mardale Ill Bell. We're about 760 metres above sea level. Behind me is High Street, which is our ultimate destination, and then off to my right hand side is Thornthwaite Crag, and I think we're going to pay a little visit to that as well. But before we do that, off to my left is a fantastic viewpoint, so I'm going to head down there in a minute to grab a few shots. This is Blee Water. It's one of the 2 tons that we've got up here. Small Water, which we passed on the way up the Mardale Pass, and then, as I say, Blee Water. What a viewpoint this is. You can see the Haweswater Reservoir, but more importantly, you can see Rough Crag, which is behind the tarn, and that's ultimately going to be the route that we're going to take back down to where we started. I've got just enough time to get one quick shot, and then we're going to move on. I think we're going to Thornthwaite Crag. This is the summit of Thornthwaite Crag, and as you can see, it's marked by this really impressive stone obelisk, this man-made cairn. And beyond that, there are some fantastic views of Windermere. Now, What I'm actually doing out today is capturing shots that tell the story of my day out. And in there are going to be some highlights, some key moments, such as reaching the second of our 3 summits today. So I do need a quick shot to illustrate that. And then we're going to head on to our final destination, which is High Street. Unfortunately, Thornthwaite Crag didn't really work out for me. It's on a fairly major junction between 3 pretty busy routes. I did find a little shot, but I was getting people coming from all directions. Worse than that, I was shooting into the sun. The shot was just too contrasty, didn't like the look of it, but it doesn't really matter because I did find quite a nice little shot looking in the direction of High Street, and that's where we're going to head off in a moment. But first, I'm going to have a little bit of lunch because we have been out since 5 o'clock this morning and starting to get a bit of a rumbling in the tummy. After the epicness of this morning's climb, the route from Thornthwaite Crag up to High Street is actually a bit of a drag, and the summit is fairly disappointing. But the view to the west is worth stopping for. It's not really a photograph, but I will take a little moment to enjoy the view before we head on onto Rough Crag and start making our descent. When you're descending down from High Street, you have to come down Riggindale Crag. It's very steep, it's quite difficult to navigate, particularly if you're a big useless lump like me. And on the way down I did stop to take a few shots of blue water, which is off to the right hand side. And now I've got as far as this little tarn, this little pool of water. Behind that is Rough Crag, and that's my final obstacle before I get back to the car. Made it to the edge of Rough Crag. We are nearly at the end of what has been the most wonderful walk. It's been absolutely fantastic. We're not far from the car now, I can just see it. It's just within reach, but I am going to take one last opportunity to get one last photo.
Is my head in? Yeah, your head's in. You're fully in. Can't see the subject though.
That's fine. So that's it from me for this week. I've had just the best time up in these fells high above the Haweswater Reservoir. Now I've decided I'm going to take the photos that I've got from today and I'm going to combine them into some form of blog post or photo essay that tells the story of my day up in these fells. So if you're interested in checking that out, I will leave a link in the description below. Also, if you're interested in seeing Julian's video on the 2nd edition of Photographing the Lake District, I will also leave a link to that in the description below. What a pro.
That's what I'm going to have. Nuts. Because I haven't eaten anything all day.
If you talk over my B-roll anymore, I shall rip your nuts off and you'll feed them to you.
Music on like normal people.
I like the atmosphere. Julian being beaten to death with a tripod.
Just cut the audio from one of your other shots. That's what I do.
Yeah, well, that's probably because you have, because you're always covering in the background. Sandwich. Nom, 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 nom.
No.
No, thank you.